Peace everyone, Unmask here, and welcome back to the Pastel tutorial. My apologies for being a couple minutes late. I was having some technical difficulties getting my camera to work for some reason. Anyways, we are back with the Stormy Sea project, still working on the sky, just like last week. And I haven't added any new colors from what I had last week. We're just going to continue on the layering process that is going to last a while. So strap in, get your questions ready, and I will be here to answer them. Anyways, I'm going to start back up with the 760. This is the dark blue color. And I'm just going to start layering some more in the sky. Hey there, Elena, Dottie, Susan, Diane. Appreciate the name change, as some people may not realize who I'm referring to. Claire, Cherry, Marcy, P. Bioni, Linda, and Sketch, Barbara. Good to see all of you. Like I said, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask. Hope everyone had a good weekend. I had a super weekend, extra long weekend, as it was Independence Day here in Poland. So Thursday, Friday, my wife had off, and we just spent the whole weekend hanging out and playing video games together. It was fantastic. Did a little bit of painting also this weekend, and just relaxed. I've been really getting into 3D sculpting, and I swear I'm only moments away from installing Blender and playing around with 3D character design and stuff. It's always been my dream to do that, actually. It's what I wanted to do ever since I was probably about 12 years old. Always wanted to get into that. I don't know where I'll find the time to do it, but something that I am extremely interested in. Good. Good to see you, Rain and Julie. Good morning to you. Eleonora. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly. Oh, hey there, snakes. Probably be using this 760 color for quite some time. There's a lot of variation between the colors that are currently applied and what the color should actually be. A lot of these gaps that I left are sort of broader shapes of value in the sky, but not actually the shape of the clouds, and not actually the color either. So this color here is going to help balance off like the softness of a lot of the edges of the clouds. You spent the weekend trying to figure out Photoshop? Oh, that's cool. Making a brush. I don't even make brushes in Photoshop. I have made a few brushes, but I usually just use the standard brushes and default brushes. That's cool though. Photoshop, like many things, it doesn't really matter where you start. If you're learning something, you're already moving closer to um, understanding the software, and that's really where you get good in software like that is just learning any one thing, because you almost can't learn just one thing. You always have to learn like the menus and finding your way around the software. It's sort of like it's like moving to a new city. If you've ever done that, I've done that many times. You have to find where you're going to shop now, the grocery store you like to go to as opposed to the other one that might be in the same town, or the restaurants that you'll start liking to eat at on a regular basis. I mean, that's really what learning Photoshop feels like, is sort of moving into a new city and trying to find all that stuff that you like. Am I using pan pastels? No, I am not. I am using only Carbothello pastel pencils. That way it is much easier for people to follow along. They don't need to go out and buy a huge range of supplies. They can simply buy the set of Carbothellos and pack of pastel matte paper, which is the only pastel matte paper, or which is the only pastel paper that I use, and jump right in to learning. Speaking of pastels, I finally got my package from Jackson's Art Supply. There has just been a big old mess of customs and all kinds of stuff uh, from Brexit, and on top of that, Poland has changed its like shipping stuff. When you buy stuff abroad, it's all weird and out of whack, and it's taken like 4 months or something to get this package. To the point that when the courier delivered it today, I didn't even know what was in it. I got the box and I was like, what did I even order? Couldn't remember at all. Uh, and it turned out that it's actually a full set of Carbothello pencils. Um, so yeah, maybe I'll just hold on to those because I actually have another set as well. So this is my third set, and I have a second set that I've never even opened. So maybe I'll just save these ones and give them away. I know we were discussing some time ago about doing an art competition of some kind next year, and I still really want to do that. And I want to give away fun prizes. I want to give away stuff that's going to motivate people to do their best and to participate. And so I have that full set of Carbothellos. I might as well make that one of the prizes. And then I'll probably, give away some other stuff or whatnot. I'm gonna see if I can get um, I'm gonna see if I can get Evolve to potentially give away course. So that'd be $2,000 worth. Um, if they were to do that, that would be fantastic. But like I said, I really want to make I call it a competition, but you know, um, it'd be really cool to give some good stuff away. have some really nice prizes. That would be that would be ideal because I really want to be able to give more away for all of you showing your support over the years and just everything. You know, I never feel like I express my gratitude enough to all of you lovely people that that have supported my channel for so long, and for all of the new people that come by and share their encouraging words of support. It really does mean a lot to me. So if I could give some cool stuff away, then that would be awesome. Even if I have to pay for it myself, I'm happy to do that. Oh, hey there, Chandri and Ozzy. Good to see you. Alexandra, good to see you as well. Well, thank you, Sneaks. Yeah, it's a fun process. It's tedious, but it is fun. Just gradually um, adding more layers of the color and getting the sky to be a bit more dynamic. And I haven't even added the light right now. I mean, it's just gray and sort of flat, but I don't even have the white pencil at the ready because I know that there's no way I'm getting to it today. I mean, the greatest thing I would want to illustrate for the past 4 hours that I've put into this sky already is that it just takes time. Um, Everything that I've done up to this point, I hope that you can agree, is you don't need skill to do it. Anybody could have gotten to this point right here, and even though it doesn't look amazing, it just takes very simple tasks repeatedly and over a period of time to get something that I fully intend on making look good. So, oh, hey there, Cece. Good to see you. Yeah, I've been really enjoying these colors and the way they work together. I'm right there with you. By the way, I didn't start on like this part up here for any particular reason. I just kind of picked a random spot. Maybe I'm not used to using my right hand again since I spent like 4 hours last week drawing that portrait left-handed. But I've been looking at that portrait that we started last week for the colored pencil tutorial, and I just can't get over how good those three colors look together. Every time I look at them, I'm like, man, those colors look really, really good together. Might be might be the start of my favorite portrait I've ever done with colored pencils, because those colors, just three colors, and it just looks so unique. Either that or I'm just better with my left hand. Yeah, the clouds will start to show up relatively soon. The funny thing about clouds is that half the time you're not drawing clouds to make clouds. You're sort of just you're just sort of building cotton balls of different values. And then it's the gap between those values that create the illusion of clouds or something. I imagine clouds come into existence in reality very much like that. You know, the slow accumulation of water particles attaching to the dust in the sky and just sort of coming together. Now, for some of the shapes, some of the cloud shapes, what I would recommend you do, so there's like a layer that kind of comes through here, and I would recommend just sort of creating a little bit of a line to separate what would be the cloud in the front from the cloud in the back. And it doesn't have to be like a real particular shape or perfect in any way. It just has to be a separation from what's behind it and what's in front of it. Sort of like that. And then I'm just going to start from that line and create a little bit of a layer in front of it. So here's the lighter part of the cloud, right? Everything on the right side of this. And so I'm just going to take the pencil and add a little bit of almost a cast shadow in front of this line here. And it won't look like anything really just yet, but once I blend it out and it softens into that gradient, then the cloud will sort of reveal itself. And I'll just blend it now to show you what I mean. So I'll just sort of soften that edge where I drew that line initially. And even though I used the reference to sort of build this shape, I didn't try to make it perfect to the reference. I sort of just kept like a relatively uneven, jagged line. And then with the blender, you can soften those edges and sort of make them more cloud-like if you have any sharp edges, because clouds usually don't have really sharp points. So now you have this sort of body of cloud coming out. You have some background, or you have like another body of cloud behind it. And then what you can do later is you can build up highlights around this edge to make that cloud glow a little bit more. And by creating these layers, you can add in, a ton more layers. I did actually a little bit right here, but I didn't talk about it. But this is sort of another part of the cloud sticking out. You have this softer part, and it's kind of in front. You've all been pretty reserved with the number of questions you've asked today. Why don't you guys open up a little bit and ask me some questions? Whatever you want to know. I'm an open book. All right, I'm going to go back to my 760 color. Turn a little bit more blue. Do I prefer pencils or pastels? I don't actually have a preference. There's features that I really, really love about pastel pencils and working with pastels that when I'm working with colored pencils, I sort of miss. A lot of that has to do with like their blendability and the speed. But at the same time, um, there's there's just a degree of precision that you get with colored pencils since they're not so soft and brittle, and they sort of stay wherever you put them. That that I also miss when I'm working with pastels. Um, so I'd really not like to choose if I had to if I had to choose one and get rid of the other. I'd really not like to make that decision. I think I'd prefer to always have both at my disposal. Um, yeah, it's tough. But if I had to make a choice, I really don't know. Because every time I think of saying, oh, I think I'd go with pastels over colored pencils, I just have this fear that I would just miss colored pencils so much, or if vice versa. I just don't know if I'd ever want to choose. I feel like at the end of the day, I've I barely reached the pinnacle with either of the two mediums, and I won't ever want to quit either of them. I always like to see how far I can take really anything. Still find clouds very difficult. Yeah, clouds are just difficult. I I find them quite difficult as well. I don't know if I've ever really been satisfied with the way that my clouds can come out. I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that this project here, I get the clouds the way that I want them to appear. But only time will tell. I will work on this sky to the end of the year if I have to. But I want this project to come out really nice, and it's only this project's going to be the outcome is going to be determined by the sky. The sky determines everything about how this looks in the end, and so it's very important that I just take my time with it. Keep layering. That's the beauty of pastels. You know, you just never run out of room on the paper. I can just do this forever. I mean, I don't know how much you guys will enjoy it if I do this forever, but at least at the end of it, I will have a good looking sky. Do I ever work with graphite? I do. Yeah, I have a couple graphite portraits in the art club. Speaking of the art club, just wanted to remind everybody that these projects that I've been live streaming the past few weeks are all art club projects. The reference photo, line art, and everything is over on my website. It's $8 a month to sign up, and you have access to all of the previous tutorials, which there's like 100 of them. So you're looking at like 1,000 hours worth of all content like this, where I walk you through the project step by step and share all the inside information. And even if you don't want to follow the tutorials, I mean, it is a great way to support my channel. It's really financially the only way to support my channel. But if you can't do that, that's fine. That's fine too. I don't do it for the money. You can also sign up for a year and get 2 months for free. Let's see. I don't want to miss anybody's questions. Oh, hi there. Salmia? Oh yeah, no pressure at all, Diane, on that. That's cool. That's funny that your brother asked for the picture. Just before I started streaming, my brother asked me to paint a picture for him. I haven't seen the reference photo that he wants me to do, but he has this spot he goes to in Colorado, like mountains and stuff. I think he goes there for a trip like every year. So he has a collection of photos he's gonna send me. And who knows, maybe we'll do that for the next project. Would I ever grow my locks back? No, I would not. Sometimes I do miss them though. Sort of became a part of me a little bit, but it's one time in my life is enough. I mean, when you start growing out your locks, you look awful for like 2 years. Not a lot of people realize that when you do that, your hair you just look bad for like 2 years. I always talk about the ugly stage in artwork. Well, if you want nice looking locks like what I had, it takes time, and that time is about 2 years, and that's because of the process. You can get like what would be referred to as like unnatural locks, but I wanted to have natural ones, which means there was no glues or waxes or chemicals or anything. Um, is 2 years of just twisting your hair until it locks up naturally. That's what it took. And you look ridiculous, at least for a year. For a year, you look ridiculous. Oh, well, that's cool, Cherry. Yeah. You like pastel pencils so much better than soft pastels. Are the pencils applied in the same order as soft pastels? No. Yeah, I get a lot of questions about order. Um, the order in which you apply color, and does it matter? And in some ways it does, but in a lot of ways it doesn't, because the number one rule of colored pencils is also the number one rule of pastel pencils. You never press harder than what's necessary for the color to show up. And if you do that, the order doesn't really change a lot. Like if I put the dark color down and then the light color on top, you're pretty much going to get the same color. Um, and so, really, with the order of soft pastels, what kind of makes them slightly different is that when you're blending soft pastels, you are you're going to be able to move the pigment a lot more. And because you can move the pigment a lot more, you got to be careful with the colors that you have laid down. Because if you have a lot of light colors, like this sky is a good example. I have a lot of these really dark patches in the sky, and then I have these lighter areas. If I have done that with soft pastels, blending the sky becomes a little bit tricky because you have to be cautious of getting those dark pigments blended, but not so blended that they bleed into all of the light stuff. And so with soft pastels, I tend to reserve the darker values until I have the lighter stuff blended a little bit better. That way, I don't have to touch this part of the sky and I can just focus on the darker areas. With pastel pencils, the pigment doesn't move as far, so you can sort of get away with whatever order that you like. Why does my blue look so much lighter? Wait, why does my blue look so much lighter than yours? Probably because say a camera and lighting. My blue is quite dark. Um, I assume you're referring to this area and not like these areas. But I can only imagine that the difference that you're seeing is not because they're different colors, but because you're seeing my image being lit by two spotlights essentially and through a camera. And I try to balance the exposure as best I can with the camera so that you get pretty close to the truest color, but it's really impossible, unfortunately. There's just nothing I can do in that regard because I spent enough time and money to know that cameras will never capture artwork the way that they really appear. So use your reference photo and what yours looks like to navigate the values of the colors as correctly as you can, and don't use don't use my artwork as the judgment of your own. Just focus on what you're doing. If you're following what I'm doing, you're getting the same results that I'm getting, even if it looks slightly different. Hello, Ebony. Pablo? Okay, Pablo. Call you Pablo. Did I ever have art block? Oh, yes. Oh, yes. That is a super easy question to answer. I still get art block. You're in a 6 year battle. I can't relate to 6 years, but I've definitely struggled for like a year and a half. And this was something very recently. Um, a lot of the art club members will be aware of this because it wasn't until what about September that I got out of my art block when I started doing some digital paintings on my iPad in my free time and getting back to sketching and just doing some fun stuff off camera. Not to imply that what I'm doing isn't fun. I can assure you I have an absolute blast doing it. But it can wear you down over the time when you're not finding the projects that you just want to do for yourself, kind of thing. Your art supplies are growing and no joy to start anything. Yeah, I can 100% relate with that, Pablo. Um, and I had a conversation not too long regarding how I sort of got out of the funk. And so I'll just bring it up again because it's an important topic, and it's good to get it out in the open. There's no shame in feeling unmotivated. I mean, with everything going on the past couple years, it's probably expected. What I used to do, and it really kept me motivated. It kept me going, just like constant. I was just able to do projects one after another, and even just do whatever I wanted off camera, and just I was just loving it, just loving everything. And my routine that kept that alive was that I always started my day off looking at artwork that I appreciated. Um, and I used to use DeviantArt to do that. But back then, DeviantArt was a halfway decent website. You could actually look at artwork that you wanted to look at as opposed to uh, being required to pay for some kind of weird membership thing in order to look at the artwork that you were interested in. Now it's just like a wall of randomness that uh, it's just bad anymore, and it's continuously gotten worse. And so a couple years ago, I just stopped using it. But the thing is, I never replaced it, and so my routine of waking up in the morning and browsing through some of the really cool artwork that I liked, um, because that's the way that I like to get motivated. Because when I see people doing amazing things, it makes me want to do amazing things. And when I removed that from my morning routine, I sort of just I sort of just lacked the motivation. I was like, well, this website that I used to like, I can't stand going to anymore. And for a couple years, I just didn't have it. Just didn't have that sort of routine. And I kind of just my inspiration sort of just dried up. And then I came across ArtStation, which is an amazing website, and I hope they never change. And if they do change, I hope it's only for the better. Um, and now ArtStation is my routine. I just jump over to ArtStation. I just see so much incredible work. A lot of it is 3D, but there's still a really, really good portion of it 2D. And you can specifically look at 2D artwork. But I look at it all 3D, 2D, because the there's so many professionals over there on ArtStation that post their work, and it's just mind blowing. It's just so good. I don't know how many of you that have listened to me talk about it have went over there, um, to give your opinion in chat or not. But goodness, it as soon as I started getting back into that routine that I used to have, where I found my motivation, where I found the inspiration, and as soon as I introduced that back into my life, I was just sketching and drawing and trying the Procreate app on my iPad, even though I've had it for like 3 years, and it just got me wanting to create art and being inspired, and then not too long after that, I started the Evolve program because they reached out and offered it to me, and been oil painting a lot, and it's just been great. It's just been great. Um, and I even talked to my wife about it a lot, about just not feeling the motivation and stuff, and then out of nowhere, it just sort of came back once I found ArtStation and sort of reintroduced that routine back into my life of just looking at and appreciating a bunch of really good artwork on a platform that I liked to use. I don't know I don't know if that specific routine will help you sort of find your inspiration, but maybe if you can think back as to what in your life kept you motivated to create, then maybe you can consider getting back to that routine, getting back to that inspiration that isn't there anymore. Sometimes sometimes you might not be as conscious to it, because I wasn't really, to be honest with you. It was sort of accidental that I discovered it, because when I stopped using DeviantArt, I didn't I didn't actually consider the aftermath of that. It was, I don't like this website. I don't like what they're showing me, and I just got tired of seeing it, so I stopped using it. And I never really thought about how much inspiration I would get from looking at the artwork every day. And so 2 years went by, and I was driving myself crazy trying to figure out, you know, why can't I feel the inspiration anymore? It got to the point, no joke, it actually got to the point where I was like, do I even want to be an artist anymore? Because I was like, this doesn't feel like it used to. And then once I found ArtStation and I reintroduced that daily inspiration back into my life, I realized what it was. I realized that I was just not I just was not getting that daily inspiration that I used to be. So I wasn't even aware of it. I wasn't aware of the repercussions of cutting that out of my life until finally 2 years later I rediscovered it. And it's been great. The past few months I've felt more inspired than I've felt in a really long time. And that might seem kind of odd because I've been consistent in producing the work that you're seeing over the past year and everything. I mean, you can just go to my Instagram or Facebook and see that I've continued to produce work, but it was less inspired. It was more it was that was for the purpose of teaching. I made a commitment to teach, and so I need to produce work. That's different than being inspired. And since that spark of inspiration has been reignited, I feel like the work that I produce is better. I feel like it's better. Yes, Rain. I think I have two, at least one, but I think two live streams that I did a couple years ago using pan pastels and pastel pencils, combination of pan pastels, soft pastels, and pencils. One for sure, tropical beach. If you look up tropical beach, that is one project I know for sure, but I can't recall another project. Um, do I use my Mac Mini when editing videos? Yes. Um, my Mac Mini is an absolute beast at editing videos. In fact, I was editing a video before I was streaming. I use it for photo editing with Photoshop. I use it for video editing using Final Cut Pro. I use it for live streaming, running OBS Streamlabs right now on it. I use it for everything. I even use it for video games sometimes, for video games that work on it. So, not very many video, couple of them. I've used Mac Mini since 2012. Just recently, last year, well, I guess it's not too recent, but last year I bought. No, was it last year or was it this year? I'm pretty sure it was this year. Can't remember. I think it was this year. Um, I bought a new Mac Mini with the M1. I upgraded the processor essentially, but I love the computer. I'm probably gonna download Blender soon, and I'm pretty sure Blender is also compatible with iOS, or Mac OS. So I'll be doing 3D modeling and game design. I think Unreal Engine works on Mac too, so I'll probably do that. Although I don't know if I want to design a game on a Mac, but I'm looking way ahead in the future. Oh, hi there, Alicia. All right, let's go back to 760. This whole area over here needs to be darker, so just going to continue the layering process. I'm not done blending, but I'm also not done layering color, so there's only so much you can do with blending. But it looks kind of cool. It looks more cloud-like. There's still no light, so they only get so far with that. Can club members send their work to you for critique? Yes, they can. Speaking of critique, I will be doing a critique session at the first Friday of next month. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but it will be the first Friday of December that I will do another live critique. We've finished a few art club projects, so hopefully there will be a few more submissions than last time. Last time there was not very many submissions, and I've noticed a downward trend, unfortunately. And I think partially due to the fact that the projects that we were working on took so long. But now that we got a couple of them done, I think the submissions will be back up. Yeah, there's really no limit of submissions I would take. At least I haven't come close to that limit yet, so I can only hope that one day I reach that limit, but so far I have not even come close. I really like to do the critiques. I like to see all of your work and give you my insight. But back to your question, as far as critiques and whatnot for club members, you can join the Discord channel and you can always share your work for feedback in there, not just from myself, but also other club members, and give you as much insight as I possibly can. Help you through projects. That's also what I like to do in the Discord channel. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't accept like the abuse of that system, asking me for critiques and stuff, but within reason, I'm always happy to help when I can spare a few minutes. But I like to keep myself pretty available for the art club members and really anybody. No, I will not be using any solvent today. I don't use solvent with pastels. I don't like to make them wet, as they're perfect dry. They blend perfectly. They layer perfectly. If you can convince me that there's something that I'm missing, some added benefit of disrupting their perfect nature of dryness, then I may consider using solvent in the future. But I haven't come across an argument that would work on me. Okay, so the 3rd of December will be the next live critique. So I hope to see some really good work from all of you. What time of day? I always stream at the same time, so it would be the same time. Whatever time it is for you now, subtract an hour, and that's when the live critique will begin on December 3rd. Do I use spray fixative? No, I do not. pastels on pastel mat do not require any fixative. And I do not recommend fixative with pastels. That is the quickest, well, maybe not the quickest, but it is certainly an effective way to destroy a good pastel painting. If you can show me a fixative that doesn't drastically change the look and texture of pastels, then I'd maybe consider using fixative. But the reality is you cannot add moisture to this medium and it look the same afterwards. I've used a whole bunch of different fixatives with pastels to test it out. They all look like garbage. Yeah, for the critiques, the submission is generally through Facebook. If you don't have Facebook, I understand. You can email the submissions, but I would hold off until December 3rd gets a little bit closer because I get a lot of emails. So it's pretty likely the email would be forgotten or misplaced if you send it too soon. So I will let everybody know when the time comes closer for the submissions of the live critiques. I like to have the submissions about 4 days before. Yes, I do use fixative with colored pencil. That's very different. The fixative for colored pencil is very different than for pastels. For a couple reasons. One, they're made of different stuff, so different chemicals affect different things differently. So they're not. No, there are universal fixatives for both mediums. They work different with colored pencils, and colored pencils are not affected with moisture the way pastels are. As it's not going to affect the colors. In fact, in some cases, I imagine there's even fixatives out there for colored pencils that enhance the colors. Not the same pastels, though. If there was a fixative out there that would enhance the colors of pastels, now that would be something worth getting or looking into. Okie dokie. You know what? I think it might be time to change colors. And I'm going to change to the most boring color, black. And I'm just going to do a quick layer in the dark parts of the clouds, because there's still some paper showing through, at least on my end. I really want to get some of those dark areas really, really dark. So I'm just going to do a quick layer here, focusing on the center mass of the cloud. I don't want to work out towards the edge too much when I create that volume. So I want to keep around the edge relatively light. And just cover up the paper a bit. And, you know, I know that there's still a lot of like pencil lines and directional lines all through my sky, those will disappear with time because the layering is not complete. What fixative do I use for colored pencils? The fixative that I would recommend for colored pencils is the brush and pencil vinyl fixative. I don't have a link for it, but if you Google brushandpencil.com or maybe just brush and pencil, you'll find their website. It's created by Aliona Nicholson. She's a friend of mine. And the products that she makes and the educational material that she has made over the years, it's nothing but the highest quality. So okay, Susan, well, you take care. Have a lovely day. If I don't use fixative on pastels, isn't it in danger of smudging? Yes, it is. It's also in danger of smudging if you use fixative. So what do you get if you use fixative? You get a slightly less danger of it smudging, but it also looks like crap. So to me, it's a pretty easy choice. Pastel. So depending on what kind of pastel, it should just be pure pigment and a binder. I'm not 100% sure what is commonly used in binder for pastels, but it isn't just pure pigment, because there would be even with pressure compressing the dry pigment, there'd be nothing holding it together. It may hold together with a little bit of moisture for some time, but it would be way too brittle and it would just dry out and turn into a crumble mess. So with soft pastels, there's going to be some kind of binder in addition to the pigment. A lot of what determines the quality of soft pastels is the quality of the pigment that they use, and then also what they use for the binder. For pastel pencils, they're going to be a little bit more to them, as it is still going to be a pure pigment binder mixture, but the density of pastel pencils, what you'd call hard pastels, and there are sticks of hard pastels as well. And so there's a bit more to them to make them more dense. That way you can sharpen them relatively easily. Because I mean, if you took a soft pastel and somehow managed to find a pencil sharpener wide enough to fit it, it would just obliterate that soft pastel. It would just turn into a mess. And that's just because they're not dense enough to withstand a blade, really, in the way that the hard pastels are. So there's some variation I believe with pan pastels, however, those are just pure pigment. Since they come in little dishes, they're just compacted like makeup. And so there's no need to have a binder in the pan pastels, I believe. I'd have to check like the ingredient list or whatever to to be certain of it. Have I ever used Inktense? I have not. It's been something that has interested me in the past because the colors um, in the application when it dries, they're just so solid. They just very uniform. I guess that'd be the better way to describe them. Very uniform colors or coverage, and I just never bought them. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time I looked at them, they seemed kind of expensive for just a few colors. And I was like, I don't know. Around that time, I was barely in the midst of doing art professionally, so I wasn't trying to spend much money on stuff I wasn't for sure going to be using. Of course, that happened anyway, but at least I was able to hold off the purchase of Inktense. Pastels, depending on the brand of pastels that you use, they'll be more or less light fast. For instance, the Carbothellos, see the star rating, they have a star rating system for light fastness. 5 means the highest light fastness, which, if I'm not mistaken, uh, should last 100 years without any change. Could be more though, maybe 250. I forget. There's too many different light fast rating systems in the art world. Can't keep up with or memorize all of them. But pastel projects, if cared for, um, they won't fade. They won't change without, some kind of climate issue. Like if you have them stored in a place that might be a bit too humid, that could cause some changes. But otherwise, you know, fixative is just unnecessary, not not needed, and they'll last many many years. Keep it out of direct sunlight, that kind of thing. But also the pastels that you used make a difference because some are going to be more light fast than others. I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to use a 704. The addition of this layer will help smooth quite a bit of these lighter, like mid-tone areas out. Sorry, Sneaks, I didn't see your question there for a minute. Wouldn't pure pigment be cost prohibitive? Um, well, do you ever look at the cost of pan pastels? You know, not every pigment is like super expensive. I know there's some really, really expensive pigments out there that exist, but um, pan pastels pretty quality product. Um, you'd have to check their ingredient list to see, but I'm pretty. They might have some filler. I mean, but there's there's a fine balance when you start using filler in your products. The same thing with oil paint and acrylic paint. There's a lot of different fillers that companies will use to, cut cost, and Pan Pastels never come off as a brand that would do that. And if they do that, I'd be kind of surprised. Yeah, I don't use Pan Pastels, so I've never looked it up on whether or not they use fillers on top of their pigment or whatever, but or what the actual ingredients of their products are. Sometimes I do. Yeah, sometimes I miss them. But in those times, I almost immediately stop missing them. Oh, hey there, Pablo. Paulo, sorry. I have a Pablo in chat somewhere. Accidentally gave you an extra B in your name. Also, there you go. Yeah. So they use minimal amounts, which makes sense. If I think if they use just pure pigment, it'd just be a little less like solid in the container. Oh, hey there, Shiny. Good to see you. How do I store my pastel artwork? Well, fortunately, I have a video that walks you through that whole process. If you just search YouTube for how to store and protect pastel artwork, I made a video a few years ago on how I do it. But if you just want me to describe it really quick, essentially, I have foam board in a drawer, and I lay the pastel painting on that foam board, and then I put glassine paper over top of it, and then I do that like 100 more times for each pastel painting that I do. So actually, my drawer is like completely full with years of pastel paintings that just are stacked on top of each other with glassine paper in between. Right, I'm going to go ahead and add a few lines here for the light coming through. Yeah, but there's nothing much to the storing of the pastel projects. But good question. Haven't had that question in a while. But it really doesn't take a lot. Another thing that you can do, if you buy the gummed pads of pastel mat, then you'll know that for every sheet of pastel mat that comes in it, I think there's 10 or 15, I think it's 15 pieces of pastel mat that comes in a gummed pad. You can actually just take the glassine paper that is used to separate each piece of pastel mat, pull that out, and when you're done with your project, lay that glassine paper right over top of your project and then just tape around the sides and stuff. Just put a little bit of tape to hold it there. And you can just stack it that way. I've been doing it for years. I have not seen any damage on any of my pastel work. The only damage any of my pastel work has gotten is actually from my wife accidentally dropping a pillow on a project only moments after spending like 14 hours finishing it. That hurt a little bit. That hurt a little bit. But she was forgiven, so no worries there. Okie dokie. I think what I'm gonna do for the last thing that I do today, I'm just gonna take the 700. This is the 700 color, and I'm just gonna come in here and do another quick layer, sort of where the light is coming. And I'm doing this not so much to apply more pigment to the paper, but actually to blend it. Try to get a little bit of these lines softened. Oh, wow. Yeah, that would be upsetting, Linda. I don't know what's worse, ruining it yourself or a loved one ruining it. Because at least if you ruin it yourself, you can't be mad at anybody but yourself. Whereas you sort of feel bad for how upset you could be if somebody else ruins it. And I don't know if I would have shared that story if I had accidentally sat on my Pastel project. So I respect the honesty, Linda, because now we all know. Okie dokie. Well, the sky is starting to come along. I mean, it still looks like a mess, but at least we've began establishing a bit more of the color, a bit more of the value changes and dynamics. There's still a long way to go. Um, I didn't think that I'd be finishing the sky this week, and that looks like that's going to be the case. So I am going to call it a day. We'll pick back up on this tomorrow, and the plan will remain the same. I'm going to continue putting these layers down. I think tomorrow I'll probably start off with adding some more of the green and orange into the sky, really start to bring those colors to life. And blending it, trying to get the features of the sky a little bit softer. And maybe I'll grab the white pencil and we'll start putting in some of the light as well. So that may be the plan for tomorrow. Anyways, that is going to do it for today. So thank you guys so much for coming by and hanging out. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all the lovely questions and all of that. And I will see you all tomorrow. Take care. Peace.